and welcome back to Wish for Death Island Population Me, and today we're back to this dumpster fire called
This is illegal, you know.
And we're going to watch episode 2 called
Gee, it sure is boring around here.
Immediately we get set up with this fucking terrible series of clips that are supposed to tell us what happened last episode, only it doesn't. I'm glad I fucking remember what happened last episode with my own goddamn brain, but this confused me so much that I actually kind of doubted what I remembered, and then I was like, no wait, I'm remembering the right thing. Only Batwoman has the power to make a previously section do the opposite of what it should. Why not just use the narration from Kate? She always does it and we don't want it, so why don't you do it when it's actually beneficial? So this one has the crows all standing there while the leader man talks about how the traitor from the last episode has been identified as a member of the Wonderland gang, which is the evil Hot Topic lady, Alice, and her gang of people in bunny masks. I usually just call them the bunnies or the thugs. I guess I would call them the degenerates, but then I would have to say that about all of the cast. But my immediate concern is, the gang knew that there were CCTV things last episode in the climax of the episode, and the traitor of from the police force who was secretly working for the gang still showed his face despite knowing this, so he knew that his colleagues would recognize him working for the bad guy. Maybe he did want to be recognized because then he wouldn't have to quit himself because he had social anxiety and didn't want to do it over the phone. But Kate has decided that she's going to go beat them up and hunt them down herself, and only now discovers that her suit is bulletproof. Cool. You forced Manlet, the person who takes care of the Batcave, to augment the suit specifically for you, and you didn't ask if it was bulletproof? That is the most obvious thing you could possibly ask. I guess you're also lucky that they just didn't aim for your openly exposed neck and chin that clearly stick out from the black of the costume. You seem to know how to use all these gadgets on the computer without trying, but you didn't know this. But then we get some narration as she says that she has a theory in her narration that Alice is actually her sister that went missing after an accident when they were kids, who is named Beth. We saw in the last episode that Alice was holding a picture of them both and explaining to the audience that this is true, but Kate doesn't know that. Dramatic irony, I guess. However, her dad doesn't believe it. However, afterwards when she's done uppering, she heads back to the Wayne building. And here is where we see that she rides her own personal bike even when she's in the Bat cosplay, so people would easily identify who she is. Directly to the Enterprises. But despite the abuse he received by her hand in the last episode, Manlet is still helping her and they're friends now. He asks Kate where she's been for the past 3 hours and she replies like an alcoholic husband who doesn't want to admit to you that he went to the pub.
Hours later, where the hell were you?
Around.
Listen, Draco Malfoy, your personality is as fake and awful as your haircut, so give me one reason Manlet should give a shit about where you've been besides you damaging the merchandise you stole. I think I could tell the wrong sort for myself, thanks. And then we get the radio host talking over in the narration, and her tagline is calling herself your bestie.
Good morning, Gotham. Your bestie, Vesper Fairchild here.
You can just imagine this fucking Karen with too much foundation and hair so stiff with spray that it could put Viagra to shame, trying to use the young people lingo. But then Kate goes to breakfast and her family and Asian try to offer her baby turtle pictures, and Kate denies the baby turtle picture with her signature constipated look, confirming that she is not human.
Do you see this baby turtle eating this strawberry? It's so cute.
Arius, Pan, Polly, Omni.
I think Alice is Beth.
Look, I was going into this trying not to compare this to The Roop, but the scene is directly the same scene where Tommy and Greg Sestero are like, anyway, how's your sex life in the restaurant? But no one is having the Beth theory. For one, Dad says that this is a retarded idea because Kate just wants Beth to be alive, even though this does make sense that she is Beth, and Dad could easily just check the lab that he has access to as being leader of the Crows to confirm this. But I guess he doesn't want to. The mom's logic is even worse. She says that Beth couldn't kill people in cold blood, so that's not really Beth.
She killed 2 police officers in cold blood. How on earth could she be Beth?
Listen, bitch. I fucking hate this logic that some people have where they think that being connected by blood means that someone has to be a certain way or act a certain type of way along family lines or automatically be a good person because they're related to you, and you have to love them no matter what just because they're blood related to you. You see this sort of attitude in real life on social media and stuff, and it's brain dead. Like, if someone is separated from you and becomes a bad person because of the people that they grew up with, and if someone that you know, like someone that you were forced to grow up with, like your parents, are abusive to you, it does not make them a good person or a bad person because they're related to you by blood. That's so retarded. If you grew up with people who were terrible to you, you don't have to love them because they're related. It does. But we know that this isn't an actual argument. This is just in there to cause artificial strife for the plot. I know that the only reason that this is in here is to stretch the plot more like a uni student who can't meet the word count for an essay, but it still sucks. It's a shitty take. But then we get to check out what Alice is up to. She's in this weird fucking bootleg tea house, warehouse, bitch house place, and she's ranting about how much she hates rich people. I know Alice is supposed to be kind of Victorian or steampunky, but she looks like a pirate to me for some reason. I just thought I'd mention that. I think it's the buttons. Anyway, everyone in the room seems totally interested in this rant, coming from Guybrush Driftwood over here. Terrible joke. And she screams about attacking the crows, and the room goes, yay, and just walks away.
Squirt.
And then she screams at her boyfriend, and I guess he has this like Vietnam vet stare because he's used to her PMSing or something, and she fucking rees as well. There's another flashback, and unlike last episode, it isn't at 4 frames per second, so it's confusing. But Kate and Dad are readying for bed, and Babby Kate says that she's sitting by the phone in case Beth calls, and says that she's at fault for Beth going missing, and she cries. She asks if Dad promises to look for Beth forever, and Dad promises, just to drive the narrative home that he gave up and he's a bad person for it. Now, I understand that villains' motivations don't have to make sense to the rest of us, and oftentimes they don't, because they're warped for a reason. That's why they're a villain. But later on in the show, you'll see that the entire show sets up that the dad is a shit person, even though what he does is not shit. The show wants you to really believe he is, but I don't see that. This show is just, it just portrays how juvenile the people who wrote the show are, because they're so determined to vilify this man, but they can't actually make him look bad, even though they're the ones who are writing the show. It's a very real and terrible truth that there comes a time when you have to give up looking for someone who's missing, because the rest of your life goes missing with them. Otherwise, you have to move on, and you know that if you can't find them and there's no way for you to do that, they would want you to move on. That's just the way it is with loved ones. It's a sad fact that a lot of people who go missing are never found. And this attitude just stamps all over this experience and the reality of this experience with the treatment of Mr. Kane. Just to really drive this home and direct you into some good content in case you're depressed with the terrible nature of the show, there's a great video on the subject by Blame It on George, who recently put forward this video on this girl who went missing, and it just shows how sad it is and how much people want to blame each other. And if you're someone who's writing a story about this clash between a hero and a bad guy, where one of them doesn't want to move on and the other one is trying to move on, it is a great thing to watch to just get an idea of that, or one of those true crime channels. This show is just insulting. Anyway, I'll stop moral fagging for a second. Kate is at the Batcave, and Manlet comes in after he got a text from her saying that they should meet up, and they talk about stuff. He mentions that he keeps all the lights on and locks up when he isn't there, which is false because in the last episode Kate broke in through the unlocked window and had to put the lights on herself because they were off when she came in. He's like,
I know you don't want to be the city's next great hope, but it's too late.
And she does this humble brag grumble thing, like, if you're gonna imitate a superhero and everyone is waiting for that superhero, don't you think that they'll think of you as the superhero? They'll lean on you, because that's kinda how you're presenting yourself. What the fuck did you think was gonna happen? Kate just wanders into the Crow headquarters. I guess since her dad is the leader, she can walk in whenever she wants. She's like that kid in school whose parent is the principal. So she walks in and Black Lightning is there, and the driveway is just kind of open, so I guess everyone else can wander in too. But Kate makes a somewhat bitter remark about Black Lightning's childhood, and then Black Lightning puts up footage of Batwoman from the last episode and asks if this is Kate. Kate provides the proof that if she would be a superhero, she would be Wonder Woman, so that confirms that she's not Batwoman. But I guess Wonder Woman, or like the comic Wonder Woman, is real in this universe? How does that interfere with everything? I'm sure it does. They talk about more stupid shit and Kate is like, oh, you know me and Hope. No, we don't, Draco. Please enlighten us, Draco. And then a truck just barrels in. There's gas there before they come in, and then they purposely put more gas around them as they come in. So they want the knife that Kate took, and she only has it with her to get tests from the lab for Beth's DNA, but my question is, why didn't she do that before, if it's so important? But there's so many fucking henchmen just there to get the one knife, and Kate and Black Lightning just go fight all of them. I don't even care about how two small women can fight all of these big men anymore, I just don't care. So then the bunnies get the knife and just leave. So Black Lightning and Kate just rush to tell Dad, and the dad is like, what happened? So Kate explains, and the dad is like, Black Lightning, talk some sense into her. She's obviously wrong, even though I don't know why. Kate goes to her Asian stepsister's bootleg hospital, that's an interesting sentence, and Asian is surprised to see Kate there, even though last episode Kate was there getting fixed up, so she would know. Kate assures Asian that her father won't hear about this, so it's fine. Kate is apparently running the hospital, going to school, and trying to protest the healthcare of Gotham at the same time. So she says all of this with a sense of righteousness when it comes to medical treatment, and she definitely has a sense of righteousness and an ego to go along with it. But that immediately brings up a question from me, that if you're that concerned about the proper medical procedure, why do you wear so much makeup in what is supposed to be a sterile environment, a high-risk sterile environment? What if some of your cakey-ass foundation or your fake lashes fall off into something that's contaminated now? And your customers or your patients or whatever you're doing, they're gonna suffer because of this. I don't know if you'll take accountability for that. Who are you, Jacqueline Hill? Asian reveals that she has one of the bunnies, so a domestic terrorist, in her hospital, and she's taking care of him. She pulls out this bat thing out of his body that he apparently didn't pull out of himself, and Kate introduces herself to him and uses a code that only Beth would understand. Waffles. So if Beth is really Alice, she'll know. And they just let the domestic terrorist go. They don't do anything, they just let him go. We get to the crows who are looking at the CCTV to see one of the bunnies spotted a couple neighborhoods away, even though last episode they seemed to not understand how CCTV worked for the same street as them. So the dad just like rushes them out without a plan, and Black Lightning gets a call from Kate telling her to single-handedly distract the entire team of crows for a couple hours so Kate can go do Kate things. Fucking Draco Malfoy, man. Then Manlet comes in after Kate leaves and acts like he has no idea how to use the fucking computer, and even though Bruce had apparently put him in charge for a reason. Then Kate goes to the Waffles place, which is this park, and we get a flashback of her as a baby, crying while the dad gets waffles and they talk about Beth being missing. And for some reason, meanwhile, while this happened, the bunnies go to the home that Kate grew up in, and they murder the random people that live there now, even though those people aren't connected to Kate. I guess this is just them wanting to strike fear into the hearts of the people involved in like a way like, this is a clue that we found your home where you grew up in and we're killing the people who are there because of you to try and make them feel guilty. It's not necessarily a move that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, like I get it, but just because it's in this show and this show doesn't make any fucking sense, it confused me for a bit. So they're evil, so whatever. But Alice shows up to meet Kate, so she does understand the waffles thing. They do some waffling, if you will, with some exposition about the waffles, even though we just got exposition through the flashback. And Alice gets triggered by the dad leaving her behind again. She keeps bringing it up every 5 minutes. We get it, bitch. We get it. She acts like a fucking retard. Like, I like it when people talk poetically as a very amateur writer myself who's hopefully going to get off my fucking ass and like actually try and edit my novel drafts instead of just leaving them there. I love poetic villains, but this is bad. This is like Gabby Hanna poetry level of bad.
But as I tilted my head like a little mouse.
Kate basically takes the guilt trip bait because she's a fucking idiot and says that she never wanted to give up looking for Beth, but she had to. She never wanted to give her up, she never wanted to let her down, she never wanted to run around and hurt Beth. But Alice keeps asking, why? So am I. But the cops show up and Kate stands in front of the mass murderer to protect her. It's so funny to me how apparently neither of them have backup. Kate shows up and she knows this is a mass murderer and doesn't bother having backup hiding there just in case. She should assume that Alice has backup hiding somewhere, and if Kate doesn't, Alice will just kidnap her or something. And Alice should show up assuming that Kate is doing the same thing with backup hiding somewhere, but neither of them do. Even when Kate texts someone, Alice keeps talking about Kate not being a girly girl, even though Kate could be texting the cops right now. Decides that the cops aren't going to just take Alice in as they would literally for anyone else, as they do, like, with handcuffs. She gets this idea into her head that they're just gonna shoot her on the spot or something, so she yells that if they're gonna hurt Alice, they're gonna hurt her too, in a voice that is gruffer than Kat Von D after a cigarette and a cig heil. Seriously, what is with this voice? Why does she sound like a 57-year-old man?
Tell your men to stand down.
Also, they're very clearly not hurting her as well. They just take her in with handcuffs like I assume that they would have otherwise, and Kate is still pissed off about this. This is what you want. You have her for the DNA tests now, and you have her not killing people because she's in custody. This is what you want. Alice has a quirky meltdown in the police car and says that Kate only belongs to her as a sister, no one else. So Kate realizes that Asian is in danger. So then we cut to Asian and Cuck boyfriend comes in, and Alice doesn't like competition. So this motherfucker has a gun and he doesn't want to use it. He brought a knife, he doesn't want to use it. This bitch is scared and unarmed and has no fighting skills, and yet he is so inept that he tries to strangle her with his bare hands, and he's so weak that she runs away. This goes on for way too long. What a joke. Oh no, I have a gun and a knife, but this bitch is totally unarmed. How scary. What are we going to do, Anakin? Meanwhile, Alice is being transported on the bridge and the car explodes. And Kate is like there too, I guess. And they both go into the water. Kate goes in to help Alice, who is somehow not dead. She should be in many different pieces right now, shouldn't he? Wait, was this the henchman's plan? While Kate is rescuing Alice underwater, the police are doing that thing that people from Florida do where they blindly shoot at the hurricane to try and make it go away. The crows are just shooting into the water. And then the car explodes again. And then they're pulled apart dramatically, and the poetry is beautiful and the worst soundtrack ever played. Kate is randomly blown to this riverbank of a forest and is basically dead. And then the sniffer dogs appear and keep teleporting to the same place. I guess the AI just isn't that good because Manlet finds a button that refills Kate's health bar. I guess it's some sort of exploit, I don't know. And she gets up. Back at home after all of this, Kate checks up on Asian and they're now having issues because Asian says Kate barely acknowledged her as a sister, but is obsessed with Beth. And then fucking Billie Eilish starts playing. This is so forced. Meanwhile, Dad screams at the crows and that things need to start making sense now. I agree. Then Babby Kate finds Dad crying and accuses him of being a traitor even though he's clearly upset, and the show runs with this as if she's in the right. Poor guy. He's just trying to be a dad. Justice for Dad. Don't you know this is not needed? But why does this make me so heated? And Kate is told by Black Lightning that she is happy being with her husband, and Kate needs to move on. She does. Kate has to literally be told that there is no future between them. I made my rant about lesbian and bi representation in the last episode, so I'm not going to repeat it here, but I just wanted to say that yet again, Kate sucks. Kate is a terrible human being, and I fucking hate this. An Asian mom have a sketchy scene of erasing footage of somehow it's bad, I guess. They're the big bad, and there's something sketchy going on. There's something yikes going on. And Kate gives us an ending narration. Then she rides her bike to where she has the cuck boyfriend captive and says that he's like, you're not Batman, and she's like, no, I'm estrogen Draco Malfoy. And then the boyfriend's scared. He's like, oh no, this fucking Karen, man. Alice apparently doesn't give a shit about this, and she just writes her fanfic at her desk. Kate picks up the dead bat on her bike, and Alice says some more crazy shit, and oh no, Bat is alive now, and flies away. What? This is even worse than the first episode, and I'm not surprised, yet somehow even more disappointed? It's so dumb to see how corrupt journalists and critics who just want to be woke are just like pulling this shit up into like the upper echelons of entertainment. This is getting better reviews than Joker, but nevertheless, do not worry. I am determined to stick through this dumpster fire the entire way because it's funny. Anyway, get off my damn island. Bye.